All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank y'all for being with us this morning. We got Director Stallings with GEMA with us, General Wilson, Georgia National Guard, Commissioner McMurray, Georgia Department of Transportation, and Lieutenant Colonel Kendrick Lowe with the Georgia State Patrol. Just wanted to give you an update on, after being on the ground for the last 2 days and then getting back here and getting briefed, wanted to give everybody an update of where we stand right now on the response to Hurricane Helene. I actually just got off the phone with President Biden and Secretary Vilsack. As you know, they're coming into the state today. I thanked them for visiting and also thanked them for adding, or thanked the President for adding the additional counties to the disaster declaration. I did tell him that I felt certain he would hear on the road that there's still a lot of other counties out there that are expressing frustration that they haven't been added to that list yet. So he's aware of that situation on the ground, and Director Stallings and the team continues to work with FEMA in regards to that. Spoke directly to Secretary Vilsack about just the devastation that we've seen with crops in Georgia, with our pecan trees, with a lot of other things that's happening on the ground with our farms, poultry houses laying on the ground, and other things. So. As you all know, the ag economy was not good before the storm, and it's worse now. And so I'm very appreciative of them being on the ground to take a look at that today, and I know they'll be hearing about that. Also, on the way in this morning, spoke to Deputy Secretary Kathleen Hicks of the U.S. Department of Defense. She was just asking if we had any needs from DOD. I told them that General Wilson and the National Guard had the resources that we needed from a state perspective right now. We didn't have a need for federal action, and as of right now, that's where we are. General Wilson will speak more to that here in just a minute. After my urging, you all know that we had the 11 counties originally. We had a bipartisan letter of Congress supporting the 90 counties, and we're at 41 now. And as I've just mentioned, we'll continue to push for more counties and work with FEMA to do that. We did get some good news yesterday. Director Stallings told me that the administration has agreed to cover 100% of cleanup costs for the first 3 months, which is what we were requesting for them for the category A and B. That is something they agreed to and have announced. For an update, unfortunately, we have up to 33 fatalities in the state of Georgia right now, and close to 200 impacted in total by the storm. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the families of those that have just experienced this heartbreak and this tragedy, to the communities that's affected. And I would just ask all Georgians continue to keep these citizens in their communities in their thoughts and prayers. I want to thank the members of the General Assembly, and specifically the Speaker and the Lieutenant Governor, for quickly agreeing to support us in suspending the gas tax in Georgia. That goes into effect today. It'll take a little while for that to get baked into the pricing, but eventually we'll save Georgians up to 32 cents a gallon for regular gasoline and 36 cents a gallon for diesel fuel. A lot of people in rural communities that we talked to yesterday are spending a lot on fuel right now, responding to the storm, running generators to get their wells going, to power their homes, to power nursing home facilities and other things. And so we feel like this will economically help people a little bit, and I want to thank the General Assembly for doing that. We also work with the Department of Revenue and appreciate them waiving the penalties for using dyed diesel fuel. We started getting reports when we were on the ground about there's plenty of fuel out there. The problem is getting the fuel out of the tanks into vehicles or into storage containers because of the power situation. So we've allowed individuals to use off-road diesel on road. So people have farm supplies and other things, they can use that in any vehicle they got. We would encourage them to do that, and we'll keep people posted when we end that waiver. But currently in the state of emergency, we're going to allow people to do that. You'll hear from General Wilson, as I mentioned earlier. We're now at almost 2,000 Georgia National Guard citizen soldiers working across our state. They're doing an incredible job. Marty and I had the opportunity to visit with a lot of them when we were on the road the last couple of days. They are working very hard, loading water into trucks, chainsaw cut teams clearing roads, clearing lines for power companies, distributing meals, getting pods set up, just incredible work. But we're at almost 2,000 strong now. Power update, roughly 270,000 meters are still out or customers. That's down from a peak of about 1.3 million. Georgia Power has roughly 200,000 still without power. They've restored power to over 1.14 million customers, which is about 85%. I've been told they feel like later today or tomorrow they'll be at 90% of people back online. Just to put this in perspective, I know there's a lot of people that are frustrated out there, and I can certainly appreciate that, and Marty and I felt that when we were on the road yesterday, but also told them this is unprecedented that we're dealing with. Previously, the worst storm Georgia Power had ever dealt with, they had 1,700 poles that needed to be replaced. Currently, there are over 8,000 that have to be replaced. So this is just a significantly larger power outage storm that we've ever dealt with in the history of our state. They have more than 21,000 spans of wire down on the ground, which equals about 1,000 miles of wire that they have to get back up or either replace. Over 1,500 transformers were damaged. They had over 3,200 trees on power lines that they're having to clear. Some of those are over swamps, and they're having to actually use helicopters to remove trees from transmission lines, which is just incredibly dangerous, and incredibly talented people that are doing that work. They now have over 20,000 personnel working to get power back on. Our EMCs, 162,000 outages, primarily in South Central, Southeast, and East Georgia. That is down from a peak of 435,000 outages, affecting 1.25 million customers. They had 26 substations and approximately 20 high voltage transmission lines out of service from peak damage. 80% of transmission is now restored. Several of the EMCs are literally having to completely rebuild the network. The damage was so bad. They have more than doubled their workforce, but I would tell you, their customers are mainly in rural Georgia. It's a long way distance-wise between metering points, and it just takes a lot of time to get those poles and to get that network built back up. But we're appreciative of everything that they're doing, and I know they're working as hard as they can. One note of power, if people are using generators out there, unfortunately we lost 3 lives in Chatham County to carbon monoxide poisoning from a generator. So just make sure, and I appreciate the media helping us message this, to make sure that your generator is placed a safe distance from your home or your shop or wherever it is that you're staying, to make sure that we do not have any more fatalities from generator episodes and carbon or CO2 deaths. I told every county I went to yesterday in my opening remarks that no one was spared in this storm, and we've certainly seen that from the Big Bend area of Florida all the way through our state, through South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Alabama, and Tennessee. And the stories that we heard and the things that we now know just really hits home for these communities and the families. One of the first lives lost was a first responder, Leon Davis, the Blackshear Fire Deputy Assistant Chief, when a tree fell on his truck while responding to a call. Trying to help those in need, he lost his own life. A 27-year-old mother in Thompson, Georgia, McDuffie County, and her 1-month-old twin boys were crushed by a falling tree when it hit their home. In Washington County, where Marty and I both were yesterday, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl died when a tree fell on their home, trapped them inside that burning house. Marty and I had the opportunity to speak to both sets of first responders that had to respond to those calls. You can imagine the toll it's taken on them, on their colleagues, and on that local community. So again, I would ask all Georgians to keep these individuals and those families in your thoughts and prayers. and also it is a reminder for us to watch out for each other from a mental health perspective. A lot of these people are working extremely long hours, putting themselves and their community ahead of their own families and their own homes that have trees laying on them, and just keep an eye on these individuals, make sure that they're getting the help that they need. And as the First Lady always reminds us, we got the 988 hotline number and other resources available for those individuals. There was also some incredible stories of search and rescue. We heard one, I believe it was the Forestry Commission folks got to a lady that got so scared in her home during the storm, she got in her car to try to drive away from it. The road got blocked in front of her. She tried to back up. Trees started falling, blocked her in, basically trapped her in her car in the middle of her driveway. Trees completely surrounding the vehicle. She couldn't get out of the vehicle. Thankfully, none of them hit the car. But 3 days later, because the Georgia Forestry Commission and first responders were checking every home, they found her and got her out of that car and saved her life. But she'd been in there for 3 or 4 days. Those are the kind of stories that we heard when we were on the road out there. It's just amazing what our first responders were doing. There was an older lady, that same type story. She was trapped in her home for several days, and we finally, or the local first responders finally got to her, literally saved her life as she was starting to run out of food or water. And then every community we went to, you just have everyday heroes that are stepping up, like the sheriff and his family in Glasscock County, the school superintendent there. They lost power to their school. Their food supply was going to go to waste. They took everything out of their freezers, got it to the sheriff, and they were literally cooking hot meals for people in their local community. We were in Johnson County and visited with a small church in Kite, Georgia, a new church, divine intervention in some ways. This little old church has been feeding 400 to 600 people a day. And 2 months ago, I don't think the church even existed. But to hear the people that are telling those stories and doing that good work reminds you of what a resilient state that we live in and just what good people we have. And it's so heartwarming to see people coming together in times like this and in a time of need. We also had a pastor in Sandersville that prayed for us in the parking lot. And probably one of the best pictures I've seen of this whole storm episode was in Valdosta on Saturday, when we were doing our press conference, and First Lady Marty Kemp was standing right beside me with a big white t-shirt that had big red letters on it that said pray. And somebody had given that to her in a previous storm at the State Operations Center over at GEMA, and that really said it all about really how this response started. And we'll continue to pray for everybody that's working so hard out there. We also had the opportunity at the end of the day on Tuesday night, when we ate dinner at a little Mexican restaurant in Dublin. We saw a bunch of first responders. There weren't any of them that were anywhere close to living in our state. They were from New Jersey, Indiana, and other parts of the country that were down here helping us. Just great individuals, just doing what they do, and we certainly thank them for that. The next morning, we were at the Georgia Power Base Camp. We got there right at 6:30 a.m. There's 500 and something trucks there, over 1,000 people. Most of them had already eaten breakfast before we got there and were starting to crank their trucks up. And then later that night, we're driving back and we're seeing people out there working 8 o'clock at night, the same people that started at 7 o'clock that morning. So they are doing everything in their power to get power back on, and we just shook a lot of hands and thanked them for what they were doing. So we've certainly seen resilience on full display in our state, and you'll hear from others here shortly. But I did, in closing, just want to give a quick BioLab update. EPD is in the State Operations Center with Director Sollins and the rest of the team. They continue to monitor and receive updates from local, state, and federal partners responding to the incident. The Department of Public Health is in coordination with GEMA and the Environmental Protection Agency, and we'll continue to monitor air quality levels as weather patterns change throughout the Atlanta metro area. As a haze shifts toward the city, I know Mayor Dickens has urged residents to stay cautious, take precautions, and limit their outdoor activity till noon today. I would just encourage people to stay paying attention to their local media outlets and to any notices that GEMA, Public Health, or the EPA, or local elected officials like Mayor Dickens and the folks in Rockdale County continue to put out. Residents in Rockdale County and the surrounding areas should continue to listen for any updates from the EPA and local guidance. With that, I'm going to let's hear from the rest of the team, and then we'll be glad to take some questions when we get finished. Thank you. General Wilson.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Hey, well, good morning. As the governor said, the Georgia National Guard has almost 2,000 soldiers, airmen, and volunteers from our state defense force assisting over 30 counties across the state today. Some of the missions that we've supported and that we're going to continue to support so far are providing debris clearance teams in an effort to assist the power companies with just getting back into some of the affected areas so that they can get the power back onto our communities. We're transporting critical supplies, and we're doing this daily. Critical supplies across the state: water, generators, food. We're doing it by ground and air. I mean, today we're going to be using C-130s to pick up food and water from other states and bring in to Georgia. And then once we get the commodities out into the affected area, into the affected counties, we're using our soldiers and airmen to then further distribute, further push those supplies out to those that need it most. We place liaison teams in all of our counties, and we're doing that at the emergency management centers, and we're doing that just so that we can help coordinate the response efforts, help get things that are much needed a whole lot faster into the affected area. We're also keeping, like the governor said, we're keeping our eye on our neighboring states as well, just in the event that there's additional capacity or capability that's required. And then I'm working closely with Director Stallings, and we're making continual assessments to determine just how to best support those in need and alleviate any additional suffering as we move forward. Lastly, I too want to thank the entire team. I mean, our communities, our citizens in the communities are certainly very resilient, as the governor stated. Our private partners, volunteers, I mean, obviously our local, our state, and our government, and our federal government all working together. Just a lot of hard work going on just across the state. This storm left a tremendous amount of devastation, but the response efforts by all involved have been phenomenal. The Georgia National Guard is not going anywhere. Our soldiers, airmen, and volunteers from our state defense force live in many of the communities affected by the storm. They live and work there. Their kids go to school there. They go to church there. So we're gonna be committed to helping get us all through this. And so happy to answer any questions that you may have about our response efforts after this, and just thank you very much.
Good morning. I just want to hit on a couple topics real quick that the governor mentioned in his remarks, and I want to brag for just a second on the state's response. I know traditionally we let you in the SOC in some capacity, but we have been overwhelmed. I won't say overwhelmed. We've been overworked for a few days. Our folks are tired, and the last thing I needed them to do was come by you grumbling. So I appreciate the hard work of our team and their efforts in there. They've been getting after it. Bragging on some of the folks standing up here, Major General, he was very modest in his response. His team is out there, and they are doing a fabulous job. You should be extremely proud. As he mentioned, last night we found a capacity that we needed out of Arkansas and Louisiana, and so C-130s are en route right now to pick up additional resources to make that happen, and so we're so appreciative. He did mention a couple other cool resources. We've used Chinooks. We've used every capability I think that the National Guard has brought to bear to make this response. The governor was adamant that our job was to get our citizens recovered, get them the resources needed, and we have done exactly that. We went after it as hard as we can, leaning forward into the response. In that pickup today, we're going to pick up 1,824 pallets of MREs that we'll be able to give out to those locally That's the equivalent of 31 tractor trailer loads worth of supplies that we'll be bringing into the state via air and other means just today. I want to thank some of our neighbors. As the governor mentioned, we've got a lot of response, and we've got generators and other resources that have come in from other states, New Jersey, as we've mentioned. We just said Arkansas, Louisiana. We've got an IMT team that's we just finished paperwork that's rallying in Montana that's coming down to South Georgia to help us work through the process of the response. We're appreciative of our federal partners that have been in there with us the whole time. They pre-positioned as soon as the governor signed the state of emergency. We brought in federal resources into the SOC, and we've been working night and day to ensure the response was everything that Georgia expected it to be from our team. A couple of highlights I want to hit on for this weekend, though. We've already had a significant weather event. I know we've been monitoring the Gulf. The Gulf has been, a big question mark for us. So it appears that that system is going to move primarily through Florida. But I would say those in South Georgia and extreme South Georgia could see up to an inch of rain. So we just ask with patience there. It is going to be a nuisance on response and recovery, but we're not going to stop. We're not going to quit. We're going to be there supporting those. We've brought in an additional 130,000 tarps that will be delivered today that will be sent out. I know there's a lot of folks that's been asking, where are our tarps? And we've issued well over 100,000 already. So we'll be up to close to 250,000 tarps that will be across South Georgia in the next couple days. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner McMurray. He's going to provide some updates. But I just want to thank again the state's response and the support agencies. DPS, they've had us. They've been escorting a lot of generators around the state. It's been amazing, the response that they've given, and certainly Commissioner McMurray and his team, they have absolutely been out there night and day, and all our state agencies, Georgia Forestry, DNR, you name it, DOC, DJJ, GBI, and the list goes on for the response. And so, Governor, I'm appreciative of your full endorsement of us allowing us to utilize what was needed to get the job done, sir.
Thank you, Director Stallings. Georgia DOT's role in this horrific event has been one of clearing roadways. Our priority routes are our interstates first, the state routes, those critical routes that get to hospitals, energy production, schools, the like. At the worst of this, we had over 300 state routes blocked, impassable. That included 3 interstates at the time. We have made great progress on the state routes and the interstates, and now just down to a handful of locations that have power lines that the power crews are still working on. But this storm was so big, as the governor talked about. We've had right at 2,000 employees at one time working in all 159 counties. And of course, since then, we've triaged to work in the counties most affected, from Valdosta all the way to Augusta. This storm impacted 32,000 miles of roads just in the 41 declared counties. Now, again, 90 counties, you can pretty much double that. So you're talking about over 60,000 miles of roadways that are impacted, as you heard the governor, with power line crews, with over 1,000 miles of power lines that have to be rebuilt. But just think about trying to traverse over 60,000 miles of road just to see what the conditions are. I'm very proud of the women and men of the Georgia Department of Transportation for them providing the ability to get emergency vehicles through and power companies through. Our goals are first, to make it passable. That means that you can just get around. And today, we're down to only a handful of routes, literally about 5 to 7, that are just remain passable due to power lines. Everything else is our second priority. We try to get the roads fully open, but trees may be right up to the edge of pavement. Sometimes they may be encroaching in the edge of pavement. So we need everybody to still be aware that the roads are not fully open, even though all lanes appear to be open. And regrettably, we're still having trees fall. And with the power line work, sometimes they have to take trees out and then block a road again. So we need to ask everybody to still remain vigilant and remain as a defensive driver, because you never know what's going to be right around the corner. And then thirdly, our priority is, once we get cut to white line, is coming to push back the debris to make sure that if there's an errant vehicle or somebody needs to pull over, or if you got to pass a convoy of National Guard or other resource agencies, there's places to safely maneuver over. So we're beginning that. But our first priorities are always those high routes. But now, again, this is a statewide event. We are working with all the counties in the affected area. In fact, we have our resources and consultant resources, some 50 consultant contractor crews working in 10 counties of the 41 counties in the declared area. And we're reaching out to each county too to say, what can we do to help get you white line to white line, or passable to white line to white line. So we're again moving into the cities and the counties trying to provide the relief that they need. Out of those 32,000 miles of roads impacted in the 41 counties, the majority of those are city streets and county roads. So you can understand that this is still many, many days of cleanup to get the roads fully passable. I need to update you on another critical issue, traffic signals. So we've had 106 signals today that still have to be repaired or rebuilt totally. They're just totally damaged, they're non-functional, they're not working. That's going to take us some time. We have full resources working on that. The 106 signals, the majority of them are in Augusta, Richmond, and Columbia County. So we're redeploying forces from all over the state, including consultant contractors, to help get those 106 signals back online. When you come to a signal that is not functioning, it is a four-way stop. I got to re-emphasize that. It is a four-way stop. Even if there's part of a signal hanging there and you're saying it doesn't look like a signal, please, you got to treat it as a four-way stop. We don't need anyone else to be hurt or injured. We still have 146 traffic signals that are functional but don't have power. And so as power keeps coming on, these will be back functional. But if you put that together, that's 250 some odd signals that are not working at the moment. So we just ask everybody, if you're out and about, please be cognizant of the signals that are not working. We're going to ask you to limit your travel in these most affected areas as well while we work again to try to get signal power back on and signals rebuilt. That leads me to the third thing, signs. There are thousands of signs that are either bent over, damaged, or just plain missing. We've already replaced over 2,600 signs across the state. And the signs that we replace first are the red signs, the important ones, the stop signs, the yield signs, the wrong way signs. But there are still thousands of signs that are missing. So we ask that you, again, be a defensive driver. If you know that there used to be a stop sign at this location, please treat it as a stop sign is there. We're trying our best. And again, state routes and interstates, obviously we're in our first priorities, but working with cities and counties, there are a lot of signs that are just plain gone. So again, please be a defensive driver and treat the roads safely as we go. Again, last word is please limit your travel. Give the power crews, again, room to work. Give our crews, the Guard, Forestry Commission, DNR, everybody's out there that's still trying to get the roads passable and get them safed up, the room to work. And I'll turn it back to you, Governor. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you everybody again for just all the work that you've been doing. I know Colonel Hitchens couldn't be with us today, but I know Lieutenant Colonel Lowe, the rest of the Department of Public Safety, Georgia State Patrol have been a big help to the locals, especially a lot of them very tired. Deputies needed rest, so we augmented a lot of the night patrols in places like, literally from Augusta all the way down to Homerville and Clinch County. So we appreciate the State Patrol's good work, and it's been relatively quiet on their front, which we are glad of. So with that, we'll open it up and take your questions. Richard.
Governor, obviously you and the First Lady have been to all 159 Georgia counties. What were your thoughts, particularly Tuesday and Wednesday, outside of Valdosta and Augusta, driving up through these places that you've been to many times before and seeing them? And what were the people saying to you as they saw you driving?
Well, for somebody that literally came into office with the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, which happened when Governor Deal was governor, but it was during the transition, so I was involved in being down in those communities and involved in the response afterwards and then the disaster relief part of it. So I got to see a lot of that damage. I've seen, my fair share of tornadoes as Secretary of State, having to deal with, election precincts, trying to get them back up and running at this time of year before. Certainly, the flooding we saw in Tropical Storm Debbie and other storms, hearing stories like Hurricane Idalia, the Colquitt EMC CEO said the other day in Idalia, which is the worst storm they ever had, they had 500 poles they had to replace. They have over 1,000 for this storm. And then when we literally, I mean, we've been on the ground really from Valdosta all the way up through, you know, Augusta, Evans and Columbia County, and then to Thompson and Duffy County. And just the width of the destruction compared to even Hurricane Michael is so much greater. And literally driving down, you know, some of these state routes and seeing chicken houses laying on the ground, a whole pecan orchard, every tree laid over. I mean, it's just 100% destruction. We talked to one farmer that literally had 10 chicken houses on the ground, and he's lost every ability to have any revenue off his farm this year. That's the level of destruction that's out there, and it's just so much more widespread. I don't know if people have seen the aerial satellite photograph of at night of seeing the power outages that came from the Big Bend area of Florida. The swath that went through Georgia, I mean, it's like I said earlier, it's like a 230-mile, 240-mile tornado went through our state. Large.
Governor Kemp, do you know anything about the FEMA, if we've gotten anything yet? Because I know some people in Augusta said they've tried to apply, but then they're going back and forth and haven't received assistance. Can we elaborate and help?
I may let Director Stallings speak to the FEMA.
So with the announcement of the individual assistance and the public assistance programs, we've had to sign some documents. All that's been turned on now, and so you go to the website. We understand it takes a little bit. A lot of it's been connectivity issues, making sure that those in the community can get out and also get those resources back. You should start seeing as early as this weekend DSA, or disaster survival assistance teams from FEMA will be on the ground doing surveys, starting to talk to the community, take those collection points, and then as early as next week, we'll see what's called disaster recovery centers, or DRCs, being set up by both the federal and state support there to support the locals. Our goal right now is to have at least 20 of those set up initially, and then 5 mobile units so that we can get to those that are hardest hit to make sure they can get those resources to them. That'll start across the state as early as next week. So we understand the process. Again, unfortunately, the only thing that happens quick in this is the storm itself. We work through these processes, though. I assure you, the goal is to make sure every person that was impacted by the storm has the opportunity to recover.
And Governor Kemp, just follow up.
Yeah, let me add a couple other things there. Our insurance commissioner, John King, told me today he's headed to Valdosta. They're opening facilities up where people can get help with their insurance needs and, you know, insurance adjusters and other things. So you have them working on that. I know Ag Commissioner Tyler Harper is on the ground reminding farmers to document, working with farm service agencies and the federal response. Obviously, we talked to Secretary Vilsack about that earlier today. And then also, I think a good resource for communities like that is the congressional offices. I know they'll be getting stood up and be able to help with constituent services on FEMA too.
Is there anything with the power as well, with really quickly in Augusta? They're saying it's October 13th possibly. Is there any other possible way to get other states? I know there's
Well, Augusta's probably the hardest hit area we got on the power situation. I think a lot of it had to do with transmission and substations and other things that were having to be completely rebuilt. I would reference you to them because I don't have every detail on that, but I know one of the things that Georgia Power tweeted out today, I mean, they literally were having to use a helicopter to remove a tree off a transmission line that was in the middle of a swamp you couldn't even get a truck to. There was somebody out there in a boat, you know, signaling directions to them. So that's the level of destruction that was out there and what we're having to deal with. But again, I think they're making a lot of headway in the Augusta area, and hopefully you'll see that here over the next 24 to 48 hours.
Governor, on the biolab fire, that facility has had a history of repeated violation. This is not even the first fire that's happened at the biolab facility. Do you intend on looking at enforcement action by EPD, having EPD
Well,
present anything to you on?
Yeah, I would just refer you to EPD or EPA on any enforcement actions. I mean, they have the leverage to do that. If there are violations, that's what they do every day. They don't need direction from me on that. I tell them to do their job, and that's what they do. I mean, our immediate posture is we're trying to help coordinate the response to the incident. And I know Director Stallings can probably speak more to that than I can on the communications that we've had with EPA, who I think is the lead agency on the biolab. So you know, certainly refer you back to them on that too. Do you have anything else you want to add to that? Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up on the biolab? With the fire coming a short time after the storm came through, is there any indication that high winds may have damaged the facility before those, before the fire happened? I mean, is there any indication that those events are?
Well, I mean, I certainly have not heard that, but I don't know.
I would just refer to Rockdale. They're investigating that.
Governor, back to the storm damage. Can we get an updated cost of the damage and the recovery?
Well, it's not near what it's going to be, but I'll let Director Stallings give you the latest number, but it's going to grow substantially.
Yeah, as of this morning, we've received information, just preliminary results from about 50 counties so far, and we're around 417 million, and that number is expected to grow exponentially.
I mean, just to put that in perspective, I talked to 2 different landowners that had lost in the double-digit millions, 10 million, over 10 million, one of them over $20 million worth of timber that's laying on the ground. And that's 2 people and 2 landowners. So it'll be significant on the ag side with literally everybody was in the path of the storm. Pretty much everybody was on the right side of the storm. I think the cotton crop will be almost a complete loss. A lot of the pecan crop will be a complete loss, or at least a complete loss for the affected counties there. So it's going to be significant, not to mention the structures that have been damaged, the amount of money it's taken to rebuild the transmission lines and the power lines. I mean, it's going to be a lot.
Governor, we remember last time after Michael, there were some bureaucratic snafus that prevented farmers and growers from getting the federal help that they needed. Any indication now, trying to make sure that pipeline is going to be flowing sooner?
Well, I think we have a better process for this now because of the politics of that at the time, which is very frustrating for me. When I was working that issue with our congressional delegation, with our agriculture commissioner at the time, that's a conversation that Commissioner Tyler Harper, myself, Congressman Austin Scott, a lot of other members of the congressional delegation are already having to make sure that we're attacking this in a bipartisan way so that we don't have politics involved in this response. I mean, we should not have politics involved in disaster response and getting relief for our farmers or the citizens of our state. And I think you will see that. Our hope is that if there's a supplemental done, which I think they probably would be for the ag side of this, that money is block granted to the states like it was last time, which allows us to really cut out a lot of the red tape and the bureaucracy and get the relief directly to the producers that need it. That worked very well once we finally did get this done with Hurricane Michael, and so that's our hope and that's what we're working on.
Governor, now that you've had a chance to do this tour and review so much of the state's response, have you learned any lessons or any takeaways, anything you think might do differently next time?
Well, I don't know that there's anything that we would do differently. I'm just so thankful that we did the early state of emergency, that we made it a statewide event, listening to Will and the rest of the weather team and the information that we were getting to make sure our whole state knew to prepare for this, which is, if you remember what Director Stallings was saying, pre-storm was prepare to survive for 72 hours after the storm hits. That'll allow us enough time to cut through and get to you no matter where you are. And that really played out. We had individuals that were prepared for that, and we also know that there were some individuals that weren't prepared for that, so that's a good lesson really for all of us as citizens to make sure you have enough food, enough water to survive that additional 72 hours in a storm like this. But also, look, I think people, I mean, you talk to a lot of people over in the CSRA and the kind of Augusta, Columbia County area. I mean, they were not thinking this storm was going to hit them. And you know, I think a lot of people got blindsided. So it's a good lesson for all of us. But I'm just thankful that we have an experienced team. We got ready early. We had all the resources available. The emergency, you know, the state of emergency that we did allowed Director Stallings to really pull every resource into the State Operations Center, our private sector partners like the Red Cross and federal partners like FEMA, so that we were ready when the storm hit, and we were responding literally as soon as it was safe to do so afterwards. I do think, you know, we've experienced, and you do this in every storm, is just there's a lot of turnover in emergency management. So sometimes you don't have as experienced people on the ground at the county level or city level as you might from one county to another. And you know, I think Director Stallings and his team's done a good job about shifting either some of their resources to those counties or getting other counties that weren't as hard hit. I think it was Glasscock. No, it wasn't Glasscock. There was one of the counties where we were yesterday, but we had, like, I know Baldwin County did a lot to help Glasscock County out. And we had, I think one of the Baldwin County folks went to maybe Washington County or one of the other smaller counties. Their EMA guy went over there to help because their county wasn't hit as much. So we had a lot of that going on too in our state. And I think as we, you know, kind of do a post-mortem on the storm, there'll be those kind of things that we'll look at to just see, not that we would have done a whole lot different, but just how could we be maybe more efficient or provide the locals more resources when they're seeing turnover at that level. But I'm sure we'll continue to learn. I mean, look, we learn something after every storm. That's one reason Georgia has such a good team, is we've been through a lot. If you think back to some of the things that happened in the Deal administration and their response and how they improved things, and I certainly learned a lot from watching Governor Deal in these scenarios, and then have learned a lot dealing with what I have in 5.5 years, and we'll continue to sharpen the team and just do all we can to help support our people. But also, you know, we've made, despite what we have to do for ourselves, there are resources that we have that we're not using, and we're certainly offering those to people that need them. And so we want to be good neighbors, like a lot of people are being good neighbors to us.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to parade.
Great job. Yes, sir. Thanks. Great job.